Today we are starting Chapter 8. This is Lesson 8.1, Monomials and Factoring. Factored form. Factored form is when a monomial is expressed as the product of its prime factors. In other words, as a multiplication problem of all of its prime factors. Let's recall what a prime factor is. A prime number or prime factor is a number that has only two factors, 1 and itself. So let's start with example number 1. We want to write this monomial, negative 20x cubed y squared, in factored form. Whenever we have a numerical coefficient that is a negative, we're first going to express our first prime factor of negative 1. Okay, and 20 can be factored if you want to. If you need to, you can use the factor tree. 2 times 10, and 10 is 2 times 5. So our prime factorization for 20 would be 2 times 2 times 5. So we have negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 5. And then our variables are very easily factored. Times x times x times x times y times y. So if you are asked to write a monomial in factored form, this would be the factored form of that monomial. Each of those factors is a prime factor, and it's expressed as a product. Okay, let's go on to number 2, 34, x to the 4th, and I'm sorry, but this is supposed to be y to the 3rd. Okay, so let's factor the number 34. 34 is an even number, so I know that 2 is a factor, and it's 2 times 17. 17 is also a prime number. 2 and 17 are prime numbers. So those are the factors, the prime factors of 34. 2 times 17 times 4 x's times 3 y's. Okay. All right, let's move along. Number 3. Let's go ahead and factor negative 52. Let's recall that when our coefficient is negative, we're first going to pull out the negative 1 as the first factor, and let's factor the number 52. Okay, so 52 is an even number. I know that 2 divides it evenly. So 52 is 2 times 26. 2 is already prime, so I'll bring that down. 26 can be further factored, and it's 2 times 13. 13 is a prime number. So there's your factorization for 52. It's 2 times 2 times 13. To factor our variables, I just list and expand the factors. A squared is a times a, and b is plain b. And there is negative 52 a squared b in factored form. Number 4, go ahead and work out on your own. Hit pause on the video and then check your answer. Okay, your answer is 5 times 19 times a times b times c times c. You will be asked to find the greatest common factor of 2 or more monomials. The greatest common factor, the GCF, is the greatest factor that 2 or more terms have in common. So your first step in finding the greatest common is to factor each of the monomials. So let's first factor 6xy cubed. So 6xy cubed would be 2 times 3 times x times y times y times y. And then we would factor 18yz. So 18 would be 2 times 3 times 3 times y times z. Your next step is to identify the common factors that each of these terms have. So if you notice, they each have 1, 2 in common, they each have 1, 3 in common, and they each have 1 y in common. So we take the common factors and multiply them together, and the greatest common factor would be 2 times 3, that's 6y. The common factor is 6y, the greatest common factor. Okay, let's try number 2. 12a squared b squared c can be factored as follows. 2 times 2 times 3 times a times b times b times c. And then I have 18ab cubed, and I can factor that as follows. 2 times 3 times 3 times a times b times b times b. Okay, so the key here is to identify which prime factors they have in common, multiply them together, and that will be the greatest common factor. So let's identify common factors. They have 1, 2 in common, they have a 3 in common, they have an a in common, and they have 2 b's in common. So I can say that the greatest common factor is 2 times 3 times a times b times b. That would be 6ab squared. That is the GCF. Okay, try number 3 on your own. Hit pause on the video and then check your answer when you're done. The GCF is 10q squared RT.